Hi, today we're going to talk about the ROI calculator that we added to RapidSpike late last year. It's an important dashboard in RapidSpike that enables you to understand a little bit more about how making changes to your website in line with the monitoring that we're doing is actually really beneficial, particularly when it comes to your return on investment. So let's have a look at the app and find out a little bit more about this new dashboard. I'm demoing today on a dummy website. It's a fake e-commerce web shop. The reason why I'm using this one is because we've got lots of monitoring data. We've got plenty of pages set up with page load information and also Google Lighthouse, and these are key to getting an accurate ROI calculation. So let's go to the dashboard. It's under Tools on the left-hand side here, ROI Calculator. And straight away you'll see we've got some options to configure. So we'll choose an industry. It's a pet care site, and we'll set a modest revenue of $100,000 per month. Under Pages, we can choose whichever page we want to perform the calculation on. Normally we would recommend choosing pages that are key to your customer funnel. So starting at the home page and then perhaps including the shop and the product page and the shopping cart. But we're just going to do the home page today just to keep it simple. So I'm going to click Calculate, and away we go. So straight away, highlighted front and center is the projected revenue improvement that the calculations come back with, which is about $4,000 a month that could potentially be gained by making changes based on the recommendations that RapidSpike has for this site. And you can see that corresponds to $50,000 a year, $250,000 over 5 years, and is roughly 4.2% of the total revenue of the site per month. So straight away you'd be wondering, how have we come up with these numbers? Underneath, you'll notice we have a breakdown of the scoring and the weighting for each of these 4 categories: downtime, performance, reliability, and user experience. And we've provided the revenue calculation underneath. So if you just click this toggle, you can see the scoring that this particular website has received based on these 4 metrics. So downtime, the impact of a downtime event is very high because if the site is down, then you simply can't make any money off it. So that has a very high weighting. Performance, medium. We believe that making performance improvements to your website is the best possible way of improving your overall ongoing ROI potential. Reliability, page stability, weighted low. And then user experience, which is user satisfaction, also weighted low. But these all add up to that total calculation. Underneath, we then have a full breakdown of these scores. We've also included industry benchmarks. Now let's pop this open and have a look. This site's received an F, which is obviously a fail. As you can see here, we failed every single one of these 15 benchmarks. But what are they? Well, we've scoured the web for standards and statistics based around, particularly around performance, but also reliability for sites, coming from key sources like Google, Akamai, e-consultancies, Forbes, and so on. So these are reputable sites, reputable services that have given set a benchmark and said, okay, well, look, 75% of users would not return to a website that takes greater than 4 seconds to load. So the way to pass this benchmark would be to take less than 4 seconds. As you can see, this particular site has failed every single one of them, mainly because of this enormous load time, 13 seconds here. But there are other metrics that it's also failing on, including things like discovering issues or failing the core web vitals, total load, largest content for paint, and so on. Quite often you'll see a site pass a handful of these, but it's very difficult to pass all of them because they're quite stringent tests. The next metric we're going to look at is page performance. So let's pop that open. There's 3 categories inside here: quick wins, distance to optimal load, and performance rating. They are weighted quite high within the performance category. And you can see under the impact column how much of an impact they have on the overall performance rating, which then forms part of that ROI calculation. And as you can see here, quick wins, what we're talking about when we say quick wins is what speed performance improvements, particularly coming from Google Lighthouse, can your site make quickly and easily to optimize and increase page load speed. There are 7.31 seconds available of quick wins, which we consider to be pretty high and therefore have given it a high score. The distance to optimal load, we've characterized optimal load as being 2 seconds based on industry standards. This site is 11 seconds away from that, which is extremely high and therefore, again, a bad score. And finally, performance rating. This comes mainly from Google Lighthouse's overall performance score, plus a few other metrics that we've thrown in for good measure. We're scoring a 30 out of 100, which again, we consider to be pretty bad. Let's look at page reliability. This site scores quite highly here. We've had no downtime, which is excellent. We've also had very few page load failures, very few page load element errors, and no console errors at all. These metrics are weighted, some of them quite low. So for example, console errors are very frequently found on the web. We like to think of console errors as just being a small indicator that the site may be poorly coded and that there may be other issues afoot, which is why we've given it a very low minimal rating, but it does still count towards the overall calculation. And finally, let's look at user experience and bounce rate. We've got a C score here. Let's have a look. Straight away, you'll see this graph. This is a visual illustration of how page performance, page load over time affects bounce rate. So as the page load increases by each second, you can see the based on the purple line, how bounce rate will increase. We've also included a dotted line based on the industry of the site. So this is the pet care industry, and the standard bounce rate that we expect for a pet care site is dotted here. And the current page load for our site that we're monitoring is indicated here, just over 13 seconds, which looks like a bounce rate of around 70%. This line here, the blue line, demonstrates how poor performance impacts bounce rate. And as you can see, as the poor performance increases, so too does that impact, until you end up impacting your bounce rate by around 150% at the high end. Also included in user experience are a number of key metrics. These relate to things like how likely it is that visitors will revisit your website, because that's something that we need to consider. Not only do they have to have a positive experience on their first visit, but they have to like it enough to want to come back. So there are a number of things to look at, things like time to interactive and the largest contentful paint, which is to do with how the page loads, cumulative layout shift. If the elements on the page are jumping around all over the place, that tends to mean people get frustrated and they don't enjoy that experience. We also include accessibility scoring, because this is extremely important to make sure that the site is accessible for all, again, relating to that user experience. So all of those usability metrics then are added up to produce this overall score, which again is then funneled into the total overall ROI calculation that you see at the top of the page. And that's it. We recommend saving your ROI calculation results. You can do so simply by clicking this button at the top. You can then revisit your saved results later on and perform new calculations to compare and contrast how your changes are improving those numbers. And that's it. That's the ROI calculator. Hopefully you'll find it useful and informative. Don't forget that in order for us to perform these calculations, you need to have a decent breadth of monitors set up on your website, mainly uptime monitoring, which we would always recommend, but also page load monitors and Google Lighthouse monitors in particular, because that's how we can perform the most accurate calculation. We hope you find it useful, and we'll see you again next time.